Let's explore environment variables in React applications. We will discuss how to manage configurations across different environments, such as development, testing, and production, using environment variables. Environment variables are key value pairs that store configuration data outside of your application code. For example, the variable named API_URL is assigned a value of https://app.example.com. This setup allows you to manage settings such as API endpoints without hard coding them directly into your application. This makes it easier to adjust configurations for different environments. Why should you use environment variables? There are two primary benefits. First, security. They help keep sensitive data like application programming interface keys out of your source code, preventing them from being exposed in your repository. Second, flexibility. They make it easy to switch between different environments seamlessly, such as moving from a development to a production setup without altering your code. React offers built-in support for environment variables. React automatically loads variables prefixed with React_app_. To access these variables, use process.environment.react_app_ followed by the variable's name. To use environment variables in a React project, create a .environment file in your project root. This file will contain your key value pairs, for example, React_app_API_URL equals https://a@example.com, React_app_app_name equals my React app, and React_app_version equals 1.0.0. These variables can then be accessed in your React application. When naming environment variables in React, there are a few rules and conventions to follow. First, all custom variables must start with React_app_. This prefix is necessary for React to recognize the variables. Second, it's important to note a security warning. Variables are embedded in the build, so never store secrets directly in environment variables. Here's a basic example of how to use environment variables in a React application. In your .environment file, you might have React_app_API_URL set to https://adev.com and React_app_debug set to true. In your React component, you can access these variables using process.environment.react_app_API_URL and process.environment.react_app_debug. These variables can then be used to configure your application based on the environment. React supports different environments through the use of specific environment files. You can have a .environment.development file for your development environment, a .environment.production file for your production environment, and a .environment.staging file for your staging environment. React loads these environment files in a specific priority order, allowing you to override variables as needed. When working with environment variables, it's important to consider security. Never store API keys, passwords, or sensitive credentials directly in environment variables, as they can be exposed. It is safe to store public URLs, feature flags, and configuration settings in environment variables, as these do not pose a significant security risk. For advanced usage, consider using a configuration object pattern. This involves creating a config.javascript file, where you define a configuration object that reads from your environment variables. For example, you can define API URL as process.environment.react_app_API_URL or fallback to http://localhost 3001. Debug mode as process.environment.react_app_debug equals true. An app name is process.environment.react_app_name or fallback to default app. This configuration object can then be exported and used throughout your application. Here are a few best practices to follow when using environment variables in React. First, Document your variables by creating .environment.example files for team reference. This helps ensure that everyone knows what variables are available and how to use them. Second, provide defaults using fallback values for graceful degradation. This ensures that your application continues to function even if an environment variable is not set. If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit CodeLucky.com for more such useful content.